Now, a lot of parents feel like babies don't come with an instruction manual, except that like there's a whole bookshelf of instruction manuals back there for baby. But you get baby and then you realize, okay, we have a lot more questions than we realized, and we're kind of exhausted. And so reading a bunch of books, Googling it, asking our sister-in-law, none of those things are really bringing us peace. They're just ratcheting it up the questions and uncertainty and feeling like we're not doing things right. If that feels like you, then I've created something that I think will help. Brand New Baby is a course that I've put together. It's for new parents that are in the first 2 months of parenthood, and goes through exactly what questions parents ask in those first 2 months. We break it down week by week and talk about all of the different things to expect and all of the questions that typically come up. From feeding issues to sleeping to the first night in the hospital to getting longer stretches of sleep and swaddling and pacifiers and visitors and rashes and how to tell if your baby is sick. All of the things that I hear every day in my practice seeing patients, I've put into Brand New Baby so that you can learn them too and have confidence and peace as you start out your parenthood journey. I would love for you to join me in Brand New Baby. This clip will hopefully give you an idea of what we cover in the course, and I would love for you to join. Click the link below if you want to join Brand New Baby and get that rest, confidence, and peace that every new parent needs. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the week 5 video, and in this video, as I'm scripting it out and figuring out what do most people ask about, there's a lot of like stuff and questions about gear and things like that. So that kind of naturally became the focus of this video. In this video, we're going to talk about sleep location and sleep environment, the temperature, the humidity, all of those sorts of things. We're going to talk about monitoring baby and the risk of SIDS, because that's a common concern that parents have at this age. And then we're going to talk about bottles and pacifiers and how to make that less stressful on you and on your bank account too. I know that a lot of parents struggle because there is so much fear of missing out. You heard from your sister-in-law or the lady at the grocery store or Target, or you read about something in a Facebook group, or somebody used this and it changed their whole life. And you don't want to miss out on those things, but you already have a version of that thing, and it's not the same one as somebody else mentioned, and should I return it or just get another one? It's hard to know what the right things are for your baby as you're like doing your Amazon shopping and whatnot, and it can get really expensive, and you can worry, well, I do have one bottle warmer and baby wipe warmer, but what if I didn't get the right one, or the one that's USB chargeable or Bluetooth compatible? And I kind of like, I kind of kid a little bit, but not that much, because those things do actually exist. And, the specifications for all those things vary so much that people are worried that they're going to make the wrong choice and pick the 4-star instead of the 4.3-star review product on Amazon. And then their baby is going to have some less than ideal situation because of it. It does often feel like there's all these like must-have gadgets that we must have. You're unsure what you actually need, but you want to be prepared, because you don't want that one item that you decided to put on in your wait list rather than just purchasing to be what stands between you and a happy baby, a good night's rest, less spitting up, all of the different things that all the different products out there claim to fix. And so if that feels like you and you're feeling like, gosh, I just don't know what I actually need, and I feel like all these things are the thing that somebody swears by as the thing that changed their whole parenthood, then comment yes below, because it's helpful, I think, for other people to realize that they are not alone. And there's a lot of fear of missing out, and there's a lot of struggle that goes along with figuring out what baby actually needs. Now, we're going to hone in on a couple of different things. I mean, I talk to parents, and I should have talked about this way back at the beginning about like what to actually have. And maybe I did. Some swaddling blankets, a car seat, nasal saline for sucking out spraying out their nose and those sorts of things. That's about all that parents really need. Everything else above that is just, to make life more comfortable. And one thing that we're going to talk about today is sleep environment, because a lot of parents say, okay, I keep getting notifications on my watch that the temperature in the nursery is 71 degrees. Is that the right temperature? Is baby too hot? Is that too cold? And then I keep getting notifications too that the humidity is 34%. Should it be 41% or 28%? I have no idea. What do I do? And parents worry that they're doing something. There's something about the ambient environment that baby is in that is leading to poorer sleep, or a fussy baby, or too warm or too cold, or something along those lines. and attribute the issue to that and then go about trying to fix that. Well, maybe we could get a space heater, maybe we could get a humidifier or an window air conditioner. You could just go on and on. Do we need a fan? I mean, there's just a million different things that pop into my head as we try and wrestle with that and figure out, is this what's preventing us from having a baby that's not fussy or that sleeps better, or eats better, or has better skin, or whatever it is. And I'm going to make it extremely easy for you. Baby will sleep comfortably at whatever you sleep comfortably at. Whatever temperature that is, whatever the humidity in the house is, those things are not important for baby. There's something that we can certainly put data towards and collect, and get notifications on our watch and our phone, and what should I do about this? There are things that you can buy devices to try and fix, whether it's a space heater or a humidifier or something like that. Baby does not care. It does not make that big of a deal to baby. I tell parents that in the summertime, put them in some cotton jammies and swaddle them up if they're, young enough to swaddle, and that's all they need. I tell parents in the wintertime, put them in some fleece jammies, swaddle them up, and that's all they need to be warm enough. And if you live in a more temperate environment and just want to do cotton jammies all the time, that's totally fine too. It doesn't make that big of a difference. So I hope that this information helps you to drop the idea that you have to get the baby's environment perfect for you to have a good baby. It just doesn't matter. What I will say is that babies have been around for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. And up until, the last 200 years, there was no such thing as central air conditioning. There was no such thing as a humidifier. Babies were cold when they lived further north of the equator, and they adapted to that. And obviously they survived because they grew up to be adults that lived further away from the equator. Babies lived on the equator and were warm and slept and survived. Babies were in humid environments and slept well and survived. Babies were in dry environments and slept well and survived. They can do this. These are all luxury things. This is just matters of convenience and living in modern society that allows us to hone in on these things. But I can tell you that I've never had a baby come in that was otherwise healthy and doing well, and I said, guys, your house is 2 degrees too cold, or you really need to get the humidity up by 7% if you want baby's skin to improve, or you really need to do this, that, or that. If you ask me, what humidity should we have? I honestly don't even know. I don't even know what our own house humidity is. I could probably ask SIRI and she would tell me what it is, but I wouldn't know what the humidity should be. We usually sleep on the colder side. Our kids will come out and turn the nest up to 74 degrees, and we'll turn it back down to 68, and then hopefully they fall asleep. We usually sleep around 68 degrees in our house. If you sleep at 68 or 65 or 72 or 75, which I have no idea how you sleep at 75, then that will be just fine for baby. And don't sweat it, and don't literally sweat it. Although I don't know how you wouldn't sweat if you're sleeping at 75 or above. That will be totally fine for baby. Don't stress about that. Don't let that be something where you're hanging your hat on it. You're sending somebody out to Target to make a run to get a space heater, humidifier, some sort of environment modulating device. Don't worry about it. Leave that behind as something that is not contributing to the way that your baby is behaving. And you're doing just fine allowing baby to be in the normal environment that he or she will grow up in without having it customized to their specific needs or the perception of their needs. Hope that makes sense. The second thing that I want to talk about, which goes hand in hand with this, is baby's default. We talked a video or two back about 3 videos back, I think, about how to tell if baby is healthy. And it was the FBF, right? It was feeding, breathing, and fight. And if those things are in line, then we're in good shape. And then we talked about fever a video or two back too, where we looked at, what is important when it comes to baby's temperature and actual body temperature, not the ambient temperature, but the body temperature, and what we need to know about there. Parents worry they're going to miss something, but as we talked about in that FBF video, you have great instincts. And so there is this drive to constantly monitor baby and constantly monitor everything in our environment, because our watch can tell us when, we're getting low on milk in the fridge, or the light went out in the garage, or whatever it is. Why would we not want to know that every second of the day that baby is okay and baby doesn't have a fever? Because you can get a Bluetooth little sticker to put on the baby and monitor their temperature all the time. You can get a pad that goes under the mattress to make sure the baby's moving all of the time, or put a sock on their foot that tells you their pulse oximeter reading all the time. Why would you not want to know those things? Well, Couple reasons. And I am the bottom line from this, the headline that you're going to read and take away is that you do not need to monitor baby all the time. Baby's default is healthy. And what that means is I don't want you to worry all the time that something's going to go wrong if you're not constantly monitoring it and having readouts or looking at your phone to see baby's oxygen level while you're sleeping. You just don't need to do that because babies have been thriving and surviving for millennia without those things. And so we know that they're going to be healthy and that the default is healthy. I know on the flip side that parents worry about SIDS because SIDS is scary. I mean, the name sparks terror by itself. And then you might read about the baby on Facebook or the family that went through something terrible like that, and you want to prevent that. And I totally get that, and I want to prevent SIDS too. And I think that is just the most terrifying thing for parents to deal with in this first 6 to 9 months of life is the idea of SIDS. Monitors have been shown to not make a difference in preventing SIDS. And so we're adding up something that is anxiety provoking. Typically, when I talk to parents about their monitor, it provokes anxiety because if we don't have the monitor on all the time, something could go wrong. Because if we can't monitor that, then how do we know something's not going to go wrong? And that leads to more questions and concerns about baby and, is baby okay? So for most parents, monitoring just adds to anxiety. Now, there are some cases where parents' anxiety is so high, which I think it's definitely worth talking with your doctor about and making sure that you're getting the appropriate help, that without that, you can't sleep at night. And if that's the case, then just get the monitor, get the Owlet or whatever it is that is going to give you that peace of mind. The studies have looked at it and shown that it does not help to actually prevent SIDS. Several reasons. One, they're not accurate or sensitive enough. Two, they false alarm, and so they're not used reliably enough, or they're ignored or eventually just turned off because of false alarms and everything like that. And so I try and talk to parents about that and say, if you can sleep without having the monitor on, save your money, put that money towards date night, and leave the monitor on the store shelf. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. That if you just cannot sleep, if you cannot rest, and it's driving you crazy to not know, or you're just worried to the point where you can't function, then just get the monitor. And it's not that big of a deal. But what I want you to know is that you're doing what you can to keep baby safe and prevent SIDS if you're doing the things that we talked about on the Safe Sleep episode, where baby's sleeping flat on his or her back, not propped up, not on their side, not on their tummy. Babies can roll to their side or to their tummy, and that's fine, but I want them to just start flat on their back. Alone, meaning there's nothing else in the crib, there's not blankets or pillows, or they're not sleeping in bed with a parent. And then boring. So again, a boring sleep environment doesn't have a bunch of things that baby can get to, or that baby can roll or turn towards and then have an issue. And so that's what we can do to prevent SIDS. Not smoking around baby is also a good way to prevent SIDS. So there's some thought that pacifiers help. They kind keep the brain stimulated in a way. So we're going to talk about in the next part of this video about pacifiers, but I think pacifiers are a great option as a way to say I'm doing something else to prevent SIDS. If your baby won't take a pacifier, don't stress out about that. But if they will and you want one, go for it, because I think those do have some evidence that they may help prevent SIDS. Bottom line, flat, alone, boring, and you're doing everything you can to prevent SIDS and not smoking around baby. If that makes sense, if that's helpful, comment below. Maybe just, an emoji or something like that, if that gives you some peace of mind and some permission to not have every gadget available to monitor baby. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is pacifiers and bottles. Around this age, parents are starting to think about, okay, back to work, or I want to be able to feed the baby a bottle so that mom can get a break from time to time. And what bottle should we use? And then, is it okay to use a pacifier? I should have talked to a few videos back, but pacifiers are fine. Pacifiers are fine once latch is well established. For nursing babies, that once they've established latch, pacifier is fine. If you're bottle feeding, pacifier is fine anytime. There's like two main types of pacifiers. I should have had, some props. Usually I try and have props. I don't have any props today. But there's two main types of pacifiers. And if you go to the store, you'll see there's the ones that's in the hospitals that are like blue or greenish. And they're kind of like an ice cream cone in their shape, I guess. The bottom of an ice cream cone. And then I was going to try and describe it in more detail, but I will not. And then there's ones that kind of go like half of an hourglass sort of thing. Clearly, I'm terrible at describing things. But those are the two types. Pick one, try it. See if your baby likes it. Some babies like one type, some like the other type. Don't go nuts on it. Don't try 15 different ones. There's basically 2 different styles. And your baby will either like one or not like one. You might have to try and do it under some different circumstances to get them to like it. If they're falling asleep is a good time. If you're switching from feeding them to sticking something else in their mouth so they can do to suck, that's a good way to get it started. Bottles are the other thing. Parents will see online that there's 1,500 different types of bottles. And what if I pick the wrong bottle and my baby doesn't like it? Maybe we should get a couple and see which one they tend to go with best. I will tell you that there's a huge market around baby bottles because you have to buy the specific bottles. And then when you have to go upsize on the nipples, you have to get new nipples. And so you have to get those as well. And then washing kits and all those things. You can keep it simple. I promise that your baby can adjust because if you remember, like I said, babies have been alive for millennia and millennia, and back in the day they didn't have all these options and different shapes and sizes and speeds and all of those different things, and they fed at the breast and they didn't get to pick what mom's nipples were like you just had what you had and you figured out how to do it. And the same applies to bottles. Like babies can figure out how to take from a bottle. We've had the same bottle. We have 5 children. We have had 10 years of parenting and literally have the exact same bottles that we started with. We've switched out some of the nipples over time because they're like $4 and sometimes those wear out over time, but they're the exact same bottles. And I can't even remember the brand. I don't have any like brand loyalty to them, but they are the simplest ones you can get. I would get ones that are dishwasher safe so that you can just throw them in the dishwasher and wash them. I would get ones that have as few components as possible so that you're not like trying to piece together and find all these different pieces. We'll talk about that again as baby, goes into toddlerhood when we talk about like sippy cups and stuff like that, because you can get ones that have like 14 different pieces for making the perfect, ability for baby to suck on the sippy cup or whatnot. And it gets really complicated, and trying to keep all those pieces together, like that's part of the deal, is you lose pieces or they get stuck in the dishwasher or shredded in the garbage disposal, and then you have to buy a new one. So as few pieces as possible, dishwasher safe, and then what works for your budget. And so start with that and really stick with that until you have said, my baby will not take this. And then we could try one other type that's radically different. But by and large, I do not hear, or I can't remember any time in my exam rooms over here where I have said, okay, try this bottle type, try this bottle type, try this bottle type, try this bottle type. It's just not very common to have that much of a proclivity, preference would be a word, for a very specific bottle. So I would not get into the weeds of bottles. I would stick with one and really work to make baby happy with that one. When to introduce bottles? You can introduce bottles anytime once latch is well established. Most parents will say, okay, around a month we want to start practicing. We're going to go back to daycare at 8 or 12 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is. We got to start practicing so that when we go to daycare or whoever's watching baby can feed baby. That's the perfect time to start, is a few weeks before that, or whenever you want to. Whenever you want mom to have a break, if she's pumping and doing all those sorts of things, it's nice to have a break. Okay, long video, a little bit ranty, I feel like, and I apologize. I didn't mean to be quite so ranty. But if this is making sense, comment yes below, just so I know that I'm on the right track and that this gives you actual peace of mind. And it's not just the rants of somebody that doesn't want you to spend all your hard-earned money on baby supplies that will be totally useless to you in 9 months when baby is eating solid food and throwing all their food on the floor and all of that. Like, I want you to save your money so that you can go on date nights and spend it on more important things than 14 different types of bottles. Biggest points: don't stress over their sleep environment. The baby can sleep where you sleep and be comfortable with that. Don't worry about SIDS. You're doing everything you can to prevent SIDS by having baby sleep flat on his back, alone, and in a boring sleep environment. Don't smoke around baby, and then you're doing everything that you can and need to prevent SIDS. You don't have to get a monitor unless you truly cannot sleep at night without having baby monitored, in which case just spend the money and get it. Otherwise, leave it on the Target shelf. And then third, don't go nuts about pacifiers or bottles and trying 15 different types. Pick one, use it, baby will adapt, you will be fine. You can save your money again for date night. And this is a good reminder. You are, 5-6 weeks in, you need to start planning your first date night. Plan a night out. Find somebody that can watch baby that you trust and that can take care of them so that you can get out and have a little me time or a little couple time. This is the perfect opportunity to do that. Think of all the money that I helped you save so that you can spend that on a sitter, spend that on a nice dinner somewhere, and enjoy being away from baby. And it will make you so much more self-cared, ready to take care of baby and keep going. I hope this has been helpful. In the next video, we're going to keep talking about more common baby topics in the first 2 months. And until then, keep up the good work.